Hey, welcome to another Spin on These How To. Today I'm going to show you how to get home when you've broken a spoke and how to fix your wheel without needing an expensive bike mechanic or bike shop to do it for you. It's not as difficult as you think. Come with me and I'll show you how. Okay, we're looking at the lateral true on a DM845, very well used wheel. It looks like a massive difference there, or a massive movement, but we're looking at actually a trueness of around about half a millimeter, less than half a millimeter of side-to-side wobble. The reason I want to show you that is because we haven't broken the spoke in this wheel yet, and I want to show you the effect that a broken spoke has on the trueness of a wheel and your ability to ride it and ride home. This is a rear wheel, by the way. The principle applies to front wheels and rear wheels. The rear wheel's a little bit more tricky because you've got a great big cassette on one side, unless you're riding a track bike, and that means that the spokes are not at equivalent tension on each side of the wheel. And on a normal road bike wheel or a mountain bike wheel, the most common spoke to break is the non-drive side. That's the side that doesn't have the cogs on. The drive side is where you have your cassette and your cogs, and because that side is under much higher load and tension, it tends to move about less, and the non-drive side, which is under lower tension, moves about a lot more, so it fatigues faster. It's just a normal wear fatigue scenario, but this is the most common spoke you break on the rear wheel. Okay, this is what happens to your rim if you break a drive side spoke. You ready? Yeah, go for it. Did you catch the shock? That's quite a bit of movement. Okay, so now that we've broken a non-drive spoke, let's have a look at the effect it's had on the trueness of the wheel. So this is one revolution. If you remember before, it was within half a millimeter, and you can see that now the wheel has a lateral movement of over about 1.5 millimeters off center on the non-drive side, and almost 1.5 millimeters on the drive side. Okay, so that means with that broken spoke, you can only ride home with that wobble if you have enough opening in your brake calipers to avoid your rim jamming in your brake calipers. I'm assuming here that you're riding a rim brake road bike. Okay, if you're riding a disc brake bike, it's not normally a problem because that spoke braking doesn't affect the alignment of the rotor, the disc rotor. But on a traditional rim braking road bike, what you need to do to get home is deal with the broken spoke, because it's wobbling around, flailing around. So you need to deal with that, and you need to open up your brake calipers, assuming you can do so. If your brake calipers are already on their limit, because you've got a very big fat rim like the ones we make, what you need to do is you need to and I hope you are carrying your spoke key with you on every ride. You just need to use this to adjust, get the wheel back slightly into a better alignment so that it falls between your brake calipers. Okay, so here's the spoke I just intentionally broke. Okay, it wouldn't normally break here in the middle. I just did that for convenience. It's far more likely to break down here near the hub, but you want to get rid of this. And the thing is that it's very convenient. I haven't got a tire on here, so this is going to be flapping around, and the only way to get rid of that is to remove that through the rim. But if you don't want to take your tire off mid-ride, a simpler solution is to just leave this in place and just literally bend it around the most adjacent spoke. So literally just take it around the nearest spoke and just bend it. This is a really strong spoke. It's one of the spokes that we use on our Elite Series build, so it's a little bit harder to do, but you'll have more spoke to play with out in the open because it will break down here. So just give it a wind around the nearest spoke, and that will stop it from flapping around, and that will enable you to ride home. For safety, you take the other end out, by the way, and you can just feed that back out through the hub, and that gets rid of that, gets rid of any nasty sharp edges. But the likelihood is it will break down here somewhere, so it's not really going to be in the way. So that's thing number one to do if you break a spoke out on your ride. Okay, so this is how to secure this spoke from flapping around, because the only other way to get it out is to take it out, which means removing your tire. So just taking it down to the next adjacent spoke and just hooking it around, making sure you keep this sharp edge safely away from your legs, because you don't want that hitting you while you're pedaling home. Okay, so now you're back home. You've got home thanks to the wrapping trick, and now you're going to fix your bike. You've probably bought a pack of spare spokes from us or got them from your local bike show or whatever, and with the brand new spoke and a new nipple, you'll see how easy it is to fix your wheel yourself. Now I'm using a really fancy wheel building rig. You don't need to have one of these. You can equally do this job in your bicycle with it stood up on its saddle and handlebars, okay? You don't have to get it to be as accurate as this, you just need to be able to get it to where you can ride it. Okay, so first step is to locate which position your spoke is on. You'll see that the spokes alternate. They go in this way and they also go in this way, okay? So you'll see that the spoke that we broke just now is one of these spokes that goes in through from the non-drive to the drive side. Okay, it's a little bit tricky to get it through because you've got to make sure you don't put it through those spokes on the drive side, because then you won't be able to get it into position. So you've got to get it over there, and so you need to bend it a little bit as it goes in, and don't be afraid of bending this spoke because it's stainless steel wire. Okay, what you do is you do that as you push it in, and there you go, it's through. It now looks a bit bent, but it's there, okay? And then what you need to do is you need to obviously find where where the missing nipple is. Now the other thing to notice on your wheel is that the spokes cross over. If you've got this lacing pattern, this is 2 cross 2 cross, both sides, you'll see that these spokes cross over those spokes. So you need to bring the new spoke in and make sure you cross it over its partner spoke here. And there, that's where it's going to end up. Okay, so using the new nipple, okay, I'm using a nipple holder. It's literally just a little piece of metal that holds onto the nipple. Okay, I'm going to feed that through and make sure it connects with the new spoke, and just give it 5 half turns. That's good enough to hold that in place. Okay. If you haven't got one of these tools, you could use a cotton bud, or you could use even a toothpick, or you can use your old spoke. I should have told you not to throw that away, because this is very useful for putting your new nipple on and passing through the rim, okay, in this direction, and feeding your new nipple in. Unscrewing that, just give it just a few turns to hold it in place, and then using that to lace to your new spoke. So it's a really useful thing to remember, to help you remember which is the replacement spoke, is to get a marker pen, and this is the one we replaced, but get yourself a marker or a piece of tape and come on over and just make a mark on the hole, just something so that you don't get confused, because you're going to be doing this and you're going to find it much harder to find the spoke that you need to concentrate on. Okay, so imagine now that my expensive wheel rig is not a wheel rig, it's just an upside down bicycle, okay? And we're going to use the brake calipers. We'll pretend that these are the brake calipers here, or the brake pads, to get the wheel fairly true, okay? So the first step is to just wind this nipple up, okay? So the easiest way to remember which way these things go up is to remember that spokes have a right hand thread, so it's the same as screwing in a screw with your screwdriver, okay, or undoing it. So doing it up is a right-handed thing. Now you see I'm moving this key, nipple key, what appears to be anti-clockwise. What I'm effectively doing though is I'm driving the spoke, which has the thread, in a clockwise direction, okay, right-handed thread, okay. So that's the way we do it, okay. Now I've done it up. I've got no idea how true that is, but let's pretend that these are our brake calipers and we'll see what the damage is now. Remember, it was pretty out of true when we broke it, and you can see that it's still pretty much out of true. Okay, so our aim now is to, this is going to be wobbling to your drive side, so we're going to increase the tension on this spoke, and you can hear that I'm plucking these spokes. You can hear that the one we've just tightened up is much duller sounding than the one next to it. That's the one we broke. It hasn't got enough tension in yet. So I'm just going to give it a few more turns, okay? And you can see already it's pretty much centered on this gauge now, okay? But the fact is, when that spoke broke, it produced a shock throughout the wheel. And so you need to take care of that shock now. Otherwise, there's going to be too much tension in some spokes and not enough in others. So you want to even that tension up. And the best way to do that without a specialist wheel rig like this is to use your ear. And imagine you're playing not a wheel but a guitar, say. You want to try and get these, all the non-drive spokes, sounding consistent as possible, okay? Don't compare these spokes with these spokes, because these are a different tension altogether, okay? Only compare spokes on the same side. And by doing that, we will be able to get them, the spoke that we've just replaced, pretty much at the same kind of tension as the rest. And that's what you need for the wheel to carry on in good shape for a long time. Okay. Also, you may find that some of the drive side spokes have lost a little bit of tension in the breakage process. So that one, you see, that spoke there is a little bit down on tension. So we're going to increase the tension on that by doing it up. And I'm just going round the wheel looking for those loose drive side spokes. Here's another one. So give that a half a turn. Okay, another one, give that a half a turn. Another one, give that a half a turn. And here's another one. Okay, so now let's see where we're at. Okay, this is much better already. We've got a little bit too much tension on this side. This spoke here is a little bit high, so we're going to release some tension on that. And you see my movement is very small, okay? Just my movement, this is our new spoke. This one needs the most tensioning, okay? But its neighbours have taken up more tension than they need. So I'm just doing loosening of these older spokes. Okay, now here's the crucial bit, okay? Because one spoke broke and it produced a shock throughout the wheel, all of the spoke tensions can go out of balance. So what's a really good thing to do, and I recommend you to get a pair of workman's gloves, or I don't know what they're called, workwear gloves. These are just sort of rubber things. You get these from Screwfix or from Aldi or wherever, whenever they have a DIY special. Get these, and grabbing hold of your wheel on both sides and looking for the parallel pairs of spokes, not the angled pair of spokes, but the parallel ones. Just grab them and squeeze them together all the way around the wheel, okay? The sound you hear is just the sound of spokes bedding in. The new one especially will bed in, okay? And you might hear some squeaking where the spokes cross, because that will just be your years of embedded road grime. what we're doing here is we're relieving any stress rises in the wheel from the initial shock of the spoke breaking and the rebalancing of the wheel to take up that missing spoke, and also from putting the new spoke in. Okay, so when you've done that, you need to go back to your brake pads or to your wheel rig and just check and see what effect that's had on the trueness of the wheel. So having done the relieving of the stress, or stress relieving, put it back in the bike or in this wheel rig, and we'll check now the effect on the trueness of the wheel. And this is the lateral movement here, so we can see now it's much more or less what it was before we broke the spoke, and this has saved you, I don't know, 20, 30, 100 quid on getting your local bike shop to fix this for you. You've bought a £5 spoke and nipple, and you've saved a lot of work, and you've learned something about what makes wheels work. Okay, I think I covered everything. You saw that I was adjusting the spokes down here. If you're fixing your bike if you're fixing your wheel in your bike, it's likely that you're going to have to adjust the nipples up here, because that's in a different direction. And the reason it's up here is because your bike's going to be down below there. Then you want to remember that it's a clockwise, it's a right-hand thread, so the movement is slightly different. So down here, tightening is anti-clockwise, and up here, tightening appears to be clockwise, but it's the same direction. Okay, that's an important thing. It doesn't matter if you get it wrong, because you'll whatever you do on a wheel, you can undo again. One other final tip is whenever you tighten up a spoke, like we did on the new spoke here, you come closer. I want to show you this. It's very important that when you tighten it up, when you finish tightening, always give a little turn back, about half the distance of your last tighten, and that just ensures that you remove any twist in the spoke itself. If you leave twist in your spokes, when you go and ride next, your spokes will literally unscrew themselves from the nipples. Another good tip on the non-drive side is if you can use some thread lock. We use on non-drive, we use some Permabond medium strength thread lock, or Loctite light thread lock. Helps you to keep those lesser tension spokes in place. Okay, on the drive side you really need thread lock because they're under such big tension they rarely unscrew themselves. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. If you've got any questions, you can ask them down below. If you did find this video helpful, we'd really appreciate if you give us one of those thumbs up, and maybe hit the bell and the subscribe button if you think we might be doing some more useful stuff in future. We're definitely going to be doing more useful stuff. It's only a question of whether you think it's going to be useful to you. Thanks for watching and enjoy the ride. And this is what happens to your rim if you break a non-drive rear spoke.